Hey, good evening. It's Thursday, August 20th. Thanks again for being here. Tonight I want to read a little bit from my book, When Life Turns Upside Down. And when I wrote the book in May, we thought things were pretty upside down then. Well, guess what? They've gotten even more so. But the truths that are written here in the scriptures still apply. They're still our rock solid faith. And Paul addressed the leaders, the philosophical leaders in Athens with the truth of God, the truth that sustains us. Reading a little bit here, the Apostle Paul built on this reality of God's control when he was challenged about God's existence by the leading philosophers of Greece. Speaking before established and respected thinkers who knew little or nothing of his God, Paul chose to begin with God's power and his control over the events of all people. Rather than be timid or anxious about telling these intellectual giants about how powerful his God is, Paul went right to the point of all of human history. He told these great thinkers that his God not only determines where all people live, and not only does he give everyone their next breath, but that he does all this so that people would seek him and reach out to him. Paul tells them that this God that they were asking him about is actually very near to them. So he gives this warning, this discussion, this statement, this declaration about God to these leaders in Athens. Tells them that God controls the exact places where they live. It's Acts 17, verses 24 to 27. Tells them that God controls their next breath. Everything about them. In him we live and move and have our being. And yet he's close to each of us. And he wants us to reach out for him. What a beautiful expression of hope. Nothing is random. Whatever you're facing, whether you're facing a pandemic or you're facing being overwhelmed with dread for tomorrow, and I might add, whether you're facing unrest, whether you're facing all sorts of upset about what's happening, God has this reality. Tomorrow is not unknown for him. Rather, tomorrow is filled with opportunities to reach out to God who does all things well. See, you and I can trust in God's good care. Paul spoke before these leaders, and his life was literally before them, because what Paul was doing was talking to them about an unknown God, which was a capital offense. And if he didn't do a good job of explaining where he was, they could have ordered his execution on the spot. But Paul held his ground. He talked about his faithful God, about this God who's in loving control. You see, that's the peace as we go to bed this night, as we see everything in the world crashing down around us, and we see things that we had trusted for years just going away. And we wonder, how is all this going to make sense? Well, God knows all about this. And what he's calling us to is to honor his great name. Life is not out of control. Rather, people are out of control. But God is not. And he calls us as Christians to trust in him. We can stand firm because our God knows about all these things. And the reality that Paul spoke to the great philosophers in Acts 17 is the same reality that he speaks to us right now. God is near. He is our hope. And he calls all of us to reach out to him. As God's people, we can embrace him because of Christ. As we give the gospel, they can reach out because God is near and Christ is the way. We have security this night. Our God can be trusted. Just as Paul put his life on the line 2,000 years ago, we can trust in our God tonight for peace, for rest. And that's a security that this world desperately needs. Your family needs it. You need it. Don't let circumstances control you. Rather, let the love of God control you. And that's the thought for this night. So, you can buy the book if you want. No problem. It's on Amazon or Shepherd Press. But mainly, just trust God because He's trustworthy. Rest well, my friends. And we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.